Okay, then hello and welcome again to our Knowledge Power Days Finance and Risk. My name is Romana and I'm your moderator today. Our topic is how Constantia Flexibles optimized their decision making through implementation and automation of business data from Dun Bradstreet. And I'm very happy to welcome our two experts. Hello, Mario. Hello, Thomas.
Hello, everybody.
Great to have you with us. Before we start, just a short overview about our conference week. There are several webinars going on this week, and you have still the possibility to register for them. Last but not least, I have some organizational information for you. You already know this. You are all muted. Please use the Q&A section for your questions already during the presentation. The presentation will last for approximately 35 minutes, and afterwards we will answer your questions. We are recording this session, so you will receive the presentation and the recording tomorrow. So Mario and Thomas, the stage is yours.
Thank you, Romana, for the introduction and for having us. So also from my side, I'm very pleased to welcome you to the webinar together with Constantia Flexibles. My name is Thomas, and I'm a business consultant for risk and compliance products, and I'm located in Austria. In general, I'm responsible for assistance before a project starts and during the pre-sales and general setup phase of a project, and in the after-sales phase during the implementation of the API and the final generation of the automation processes too. Today, I will add some perspectives of Dun Bradstreet, but the main stage belongs today to Mario Vorstandlechner. So Mario, maybe you would like to say some words to the audience.
Thank you, Thomas. Yes, hello, and warm welcome also from my side to everyone who joined us. I'm very happy to be here today and that I'm allowed to tell you a little bit about our integration project we had last year. I am a middleware senior consultant at Constantia Flexibles. I joined the company almost 5 years ago. I started my career at Constantia in the area of business intelligence. I developed ETL and data warehouse processes. I designed business objects reports, also did some application development, and also came in contact with automation of processes. And I really focused in the last years on this area. So I'm right now focusing on system integration and the analysis and automation of processes, as well as on project management. And as I mentioned before, in 2021, I was responsible for the integration project of the D&B Direct Plus interface into the MDM landscape of Constantia Flexibles. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to the next 50 minutes that I can tell you a little bit about our project. So thank you, Thomas.
Thank you, Mario. So basically, Constantia carried out an integration project in 2021, which involved integrating Direct Plus. But the question is, why are we holding together a webinar on this? Well, the implementation was very quick and clear and was implemented in just under or nearly 6 months from the start of the discussions to the go live. So since an API integration usually takes longer and there can also be various issues or delays, we would like to share a good or best practice example during this webinar with the opportunity to ask questions afterwards. So maybe you can note your questions somehow, or you also can do this in the chat. We would like to start very generally with a short introduction of Constantia Flexibles.
Yes, so who is Constantia Flexibles? We as Constantia are manufacturing flexible packaging solutions. And I can proudly say that Constantia really is a big player in that area. We are number 3 globally and number 2 in Europe regarding net sales. We have over 8,500 employees all over the world. We have 36 different production sites in 16 various countries, and our headquarters are located in Vienna, in Austria. Our main business segment is the consumer market, and most likely each and every one of you already was in contact with one of our products. For example, if you're having a cat or a dog, there is a good chance that the lids and the trays of your pet food are produced in one of our production sites. If you're eating yogurt, Constantia is making a lot of the lids on these yogurt pads. And on the other hand, if you're drinking coffee out of some coffee pads, there's also a good chance that these pads were produced at one of our locations. Yeah, I think that should be a good overview to who we as Constantia are. And yeah, Thomas, what do you think? What would you like to tell me or to tell the audience about the project?
Thank you for the quick introduction. Well, actually, I love to eat yogurt, so I'm pretty sure I have you in my fridge. But one very important question, which maybe all of us would love to know, is how have the preconditions been at the very beginning of the project? So maybe it would be awesome if you could give us an idea of the preconditions of the landscape and maybe of the preliminaries and the starting conditions of the project at all.
Sure. So as we just heard, Constantia is a company operating internationally. We have many sub-companies, and that means we also have many subsystems. And as you may all know, the DUNS number is unique internationally, and that gives us a huge benefit. Therefore, the DUNS number already has or had a huge importance within Constantia before we started this project. We are using the DUNS number in multiple systems as a key indicator. For example, due to the various production sites, we also have many different ERP systems, like from SAP or Dynamics 365 from Microsoft. And in most of them, we are in some way or form assigning a DUNS number to certain customers or vendors. We are doing the same thing in our SAP Master Data Governance tool we introduced in 2020. In this software, we are also assigning DUNS numbers to our customers, to our vendors, and then propagating them into the systems where it's needed. For example, into the SAP Business Warehouse. I think this would be the location where the DUNS number has the greatest importance. The Business Warehouse is used as a group reporting tool, and over the top throughout all the sub-companies, we are here performing some reporting. And for this reporting, we are using the DUNS number as a key indicator, as the key column, as it is unique internationally. So throughout all the sub-companies, we can identify a company, a customer, a vendor through the DUNS number, and that makes reporting on such a big area a lot easier. We already had an existing data pool in our system, in one of our ERP systems, where we gathered some data from Dun Bradstreet. But as this was introduced over 10 years ago, it was a lot of overhead involved in this. We also had an existing connection to the Dun Bradstreet online database, namely through the DNB Connect interface. And we also had to do manual data updates. So we were not able to keep the data up to date automatically, but there were manual tasks that need to be performed to keep the data up to date, which of course is far from ideal. So yeah, that were actually the preconditions. That was the starting point. But before we continue, Thomas, it may be a good idea if you tell us a little bit more about the DUNS number so that we are all on the same page about that number.
Sure. Well, actually, the starting point of the data handling within DNB is the Dun Bradstreet DUNS number, a proprietary, unique 9-digit identifier for businesses that allows us to track a business and its related data and connections throughout the full life cycle of that business. Our DNB DUNS number is well recognized and regarded as a standard of business identification, and also helps power commerce. So for example, the DUNS is required by the US federal government for contracts or grants, or it's required or recommended by more than 240 organizations, including government entities globally. 87% of finance institutes in the Fortune 500 uses the DUNS number, and some nice fact, Apple, in example, requires the DUNS in order to be part of its developer program. Also here in Europe, it's required to register in the automotive branch. So yeah, it's highly recommended by many organizations. If somebody asks himself what means DUNS, DUNS stands for Data Universal Numbering System. So within the data cloud at all, so we call our database data cloud, every commercial or non-profit or government entity on which we have a record is assigned a DUNS number. So, and this DUNS number is also issued for self-employed individuals, such as physicians, lawyers, contractors, or anyone engaged in specific commercial business activities. So basically, a DUNS number is assigned once our patent identity resolution process identifies any given company as unique from another in the data cloud. Yeah, basically, that's the DUNS number. After this, it would also be very honorable if you could give us a brief overview, Mario, of how have the goals been set at the very beginning, and just one word to have you reached the goals at all?
I would tackle that question first. Yes, we did. So I'm very happy that we did. But yeah, let's talk about these goals. So as we just heard, we already had some DNB data already in our system. The DUNS number already was very important before this project. So the main goal of this project was really to pay dividends to what has changed in the system in the last years. So as I mentioned, we introduced the MDM system. We rolled it out for multiple sub-companies within Constantia. So more than half of all our sub-companies are already using MDG, sub-MDG for maintaining customer and vendor data. And therefore, we made the decision to also create a new centralized solution for working with data from Dun Bradstreet within that MDM system. We also wanted to create, like we had it before, but in a more cleaner way, own DNB database where we store base data from Dun Bradstreet for multiple reasons. I will go into detail on that later on. On the other hand, we also wanted to replace not only the old data lake, but also the old interface with a new one. We wanted to switch to the Direct Plus interface, which is of course more up to date. And we wanted to do that through our internal centralized middleware tool, the sub integration, cloud integration. And we also wanted to provide the data to all necessary subsystems, like I mentioned before, in the business warehouse for reporting reasons, in other ERP systems where these numbers may be needed, or in any other system which could use such data. So to see that from a higher level, we have two main goals. On the one hand, we want to harmonize processes and interfaces. For example, we could then reuse the sub-cloud integration, the central interface we then have between Constantia and Dun Bradstreet, and we can reuse it for several other systems if they want to connect to DNB as well. And of course, we want to automate DNB-related processes. For example, the data updates, which happened manually in the past, that should not happen again. That should be an automatic procedure, and no manual involvement should be, or no human involvement should be necessary here. So yeah, so much to the goals. Thomas, what else would you like to know?
Awesome. Awesome to be part of this. And it seems really that the goals are clearly set. But the questions we're all curious to know are, how did you achieve the goals? So how has the general approach been? Was it planned that Constantia would implement this integration once and present it to the end user as a finished product or a finished solution? Or was the preparation and the general approach already intended as an agile process in which interaction with the end user also took place?
Well, there's not a 100% correct answer to this. On the one hand, as many projects within Constantia have it, we had a classical framework. So we had a timeline and a budget. We started the project in June. It should be finished until the end of the year. We also had a certain project budget to finish and conclude the project. But within that framework, we try to be as agile as possible. So we're inside of this, we really try to invent an iterative process and do everything we do not as a one-time activity, but multiple times, to be flexible, to be more dynamic, to change our decision-making and our implementation process according to the needs that may change during the project analysis or the project implementation. So to be in general, we started, of course, with the analysis of the business needs. We became clear that our business needs to store base data from Dun Bradstreet and also to make it viewable. So this is done for multiple reasons. For example, to double checking our own master data, for compliance checks, but also for other varieties of reasons. On the other hand, it became clear that the business also needs access to financial data from Dun Bradstreet. Previously, for certain reasons like insurance topics or credit limit to handing out internal credit limits, the so-called company reports from Dun Bradstreet were consumed. So we knew before we started the project and in the analysis phase that these data should be available or must be available again to the key users after the project is concluded. We also found out, which was also actually very clear right from the beginning, that the base data we want to store in the MDG system from Dun Bradstreet must be propagated in all required subsystems, namely, and most important, the business warehouse, where some base data like address data or the primary name of a company is often used in specific reports. And on the other hand, it became also clear that we need some automation. As I mentioned, manual tasks which are done regularly and can be automated are never a good thing. And during that project, we aimed for automating as much as possible in regards of processes related to DNB. We then went on to the process design. So we really had a look at, okay, how can specific processes look like? For example, how could the process look like if a key user wants to have a look at certain base data we are fetching from Dun Bradstreet. And after this, we got right into the creation phase of the technical concept, as this is a very technical project overall. We started creating the concept for interfaces, for the technical processes, as well as for the data propagation, and really analyzed and developed not process, but the overall way of how everything should be done. And we then went on to implementation and testing. And as I mentioned before, this was not a one-time process, so it's not the waterfall model, the classical one, top to bottom, but we tried to do this phases in smaller phases and multiple times. For example, we did not know right from the beginning that what exactly we need from DNB base data. We did not know which base data we really needed to store. Throughout the analysis phases, we found out that, okay, it would be good that we have this and that, but we then realized, okay, through a second analyze phase, this would be good as well. If we would have done it within one single analysis phase, that would maybe have caused problems in the back end when we would have presented the final solution, and then somebody would raise his hand and say, oh, wait, but this could be beneficial as well. But I think the most glaring point here is the topic of the financial data. As I mentioned before, previously, Constantia consumed the company reports from Dun Bradstreet. These are well-formatted PDF files that include a lot of information, financial information about a certain company. And in the beginning, the thinking was, okay, we will reuse this approach and again, use the company reports to making financial decisions. But as we did multiple analysis sessions also together with our D&B consultants, namely Thomas and colleagues, we then realized that there would be a different approach, a different possibility to achieve all of that. And that are the so-called data blocks, which are basically financial data in a technical format. And we then analyzed and realized, okay, we have different possibilities here. We could maybe go a different way, develop our own process for consuming the technical data, transforming that into a report, and then providing this report to the end user, which, as useful the company reports is, it also includes a lot of overhead, which in our case was not even needed. And for the data blocks, there was the possibility to really use them to the current needs and requirements of our business, and not consume and pay for anything that we do not even need. So in general, as I said, hybrid approach, classical framework, but an iterative process within. And yeah, Thomas, as I just mentioned, these data blocks, and as these are also from our business, are the most important and the best feature we provided in this project. Could you tell us a little bit more about these data blocks, as it's, I think, a fairly new product from you as well?
Indeed, it is, and I can. But just to be sure and curious, no sales talk, just some hard facts about the data blocks. And what is it? What are the possibilities, and what can you achieve? Which goals can you achieve with these data blocks? So let's call it data blocks in a nutshell. A data block is a logical group of data elements that are arranged based on a topic and delivered via API and flat files. So this means we have some groups, maybe company, entity information, financial information, and so on. And these are called data blocks. With these data blocks, we have some data levels linked together. So this means we can go down from level 1 to level 4, down or up. It depends on how you would like to see this. Level 1 means there is some basic information about, let's call it company financials. So just an overview maybe of a balance sheet, and not that much more. If we go down on the company financials to level 4, so the deepest, most including information level, we have not only a balance sheet overview, we have the balance sheets for the last couple of years. An example, for the last 5 years, we have the balance sheets included, we have a profit and loss. So you see, the higher the number, the deeper the level of information. And this is a fairly new concept within D&B, because we have really the flexibility to arrange some setups. We did this in some called setups, where we have some expert choices of data blocks and levels, which you can use instantly. Also, Mario used one of these setups, where some information layers are combined to one, let's call it, to a whole package of useful information. Let's call it in that way. And that's not only for finance information, that can also be used for master data. That can also be used for compliance or sales and marketing. So it's completely open for every possibilities you would need in your process. And that's one of the most benefits of the data blocks. These setups are easy to use. These setups are flexible. They can be used in the right manner, at the right position, in a process, in an integration process, so that it really supports your business and not only provide some data in a PDF format, which you can read, but cannot do anything else with it. So yeah, basically data blocks can support they can support your business. They can achieve goals with you together. And basically we as D&B, and as well me as a consultant, that's my generous goal, that the product you're fetching from our business is useful for you. So that are data blocks in a nutshell. I You can ask questions afterwards about these. Maybe then we can go a little bit more in detail. But in general, maybe it's time for the integration or implementation process. We would now like to know how it worked out in detail, and how did you solve it, Mario? And are there special points that you paid attention to and that were important to you? And maybe in addition, you could give us a short overview of the actual implementation path and the effort or challenges you had during these nearly 6 months.
Sure. When we're talking about the implementation process in detail, it all starts with defining work packages. We did that in an also agile manner, which means as little as possible, but as big as needed. That goes hand in hand with the iterative process I mentioned before. For example, when we're talking about the actual implementation of, for example, a data structure, we did not from the beginning implement the full table and went on from that. No, we also did not implement the full interface, the full application, the full business logic. We tried starting by implementing a part of a data structure, a part of the interface, simply getting data into our system, getting some data stored, develop some application around that to make some of these data visible. And then we went on to testing. We had a small solution in place. We tested it. We analyzed again, we reviewed, okay, what have we achieved? Is that going in the direction that we needed? Or are we going in the wrong direction? And also this can give us insights on what additionally could be involved or introduced once the key users see the solution working out. And I just mentioned a very important piece here, the key users. For testing, you always have to involve the business. It's not enough that you, at least in my case, as a project manager or from an IT standpoint, to do the testing alone. Of course, testing from a technical standpoint is important, but the testing together with the business is key to find out if the application you are developing, if the solution in general you are designing is exactly as the business needs it, because I as a project manager and also I from an IT standpoint do not know the exact requirements to the solution, because I'm not the one working with the solution in the end. That is the business, that are the key users. And that's why you always have to involve them. We involve them throughout all the design phases, the implementation phases, throughout the development circles. We were in contact with them. We let them know, okay, this is what we have achieved now. Please have a look at this. Most of the time together, we had a look at it. We discussed, okay, is this a good approach, a bad approach? Would you like something different? Also, we did not just say, okay, we just had some already in place. We want to replace it one-on-one, but we reminded them that this is a new project. You can think about everything you would like to have the new solution be able to do. And not only think about what was in the past and how did it work in the past, but really focus on, okay, this would be a good thing to have in the future. And throughout these processes, we also involved the D&P support, Thomas and colleagues, in our discussions. So right from the beginning, we were in contact with Thomas. We let them know, okay, this is what we want to achieve. This would be our approach. What do you have to say to it? What do you think about it? Is it a good approach? Do you see some major obstacles here? Are we going in a completely wrong direction? Or is it okay from your standpoint, from your view? That was also really important. And as I mentioned before, without doing that, we would have strictly went for consuming company reports as we did it in the past. But Thomas and colleagues provided us information about these data blocks. We then analyzed, okay, we can work with this data also in a different way, which we had not had in the past. And we then found out, in this case, really an area where we can save some costs and go in a different direction than we did in the past. So really, again, iterative process and agile process, doing these circles or doing these activities in circles, in sprints, was key for developing really the solution as it is in the end. So yeah, so much to implementation of the project. Thomas, what else would you like to tell me?
Well, it really seems that this was a smooth and nice project within your company, and as well from my point of view, I really enjoyed to work with you and your team. And maybe some words about the DNB support, because you mentioned that before. Yeah, it makes sense to involve us as a consultant team very early in the project phase, because maybe we know some facts you do not know, as it happened during this process and during this project, because yeah, there are always new products, and there are always new ways we can offer to implement our data. And of course we are happy to be involved very early. We are happy to try to organize, try to generate your process together with you, to have it nice and smooth, and to have a smart, it must be smart. So that's maybe the most common word, to find a good process where you're happy, the end user is happy, and of course we are happy in the end, because we have a satisfied customer. And so yeah, just reach out to us, as of course, if you have questions before and after the project, we're happy to support. And yeah, that's maybe some words to the DNB support. There's one question which is finally left, and maybe which is the final big one. What are your key benefits, or your outcome of working with DNB, and what are the lessons learned the last couple of months? Maybe you can say some words to this, Mario.
Mm-hmm. Yes, so I would start with the outcome of the project. The outcome is the so-called DNB cockpit. This is right now a centralized solution, a centralized application within the MDG system, with which each and every user within Constantia can now work in the same way with data and processes related to DNB. To give a few overlook of the functionalities, we can right now store and view base data from Dun Bradstreet. As I mentioned before, automation is key. So we implemented a process which keeps these data up to date automatically, so no manual activities are involved here anymore. We are able to, or the users actually are able to request reports from this application. They can request base data reports, which are basically the same as financial reports. The approach is the same. We are fetching data from Dun & Bradstreet. We, in a technical format, we are transforming it into a PDF report in a readable form. We are sending this report then out directly to the end user. And base data reports at Constantia, for example, are used to a first due diligence check for possible vendors. So in the past, our MDM team was required to ask for the so-called Handelsregisterauszug, which sometimes took really long until they received it. Right now, as soon as a vendor has a DUNS number assigned, they are requesting the base data reports, and a few seconds later, they have the respective report in their email outlook. On the other hand, financial reports are basically the same, but with a lot more financial data involved. So for example, for credit limit recommendations, daily revenues, all these financial key figures are in these financial reports, which users can request and which are sent to them directly via email, as well as for the base reports. Key users are able to perform the DUNS search in here, so they can look for, you can enter parameters and look for the DUNS number for a given parameter set. And if this DUNS search was unsuccessful, so if they do not find the proper match, they can initiate a research. And we are, of course, propagating the DNB base data in all required systems. So we introduced processes to automatically propagate the data in all systems wherever it is needed. Altogether, as Thomas already mentioned, the project from the first analysis phase, so from project kickoff up to the rollout at the beginning of December, took us 6 months. So yeah, really happy that we managed to get everything done within half a year. And of course, yeah, there are some big key benefits we have out of this, or we get out of this project. The most obvious one we have right now, a centralized solution for all Constantia Flexibles employees to work with data from Dun Bradstreet. That means an employee in Germany, in Poland, can work with D&B processes the same way like an employee in the USA or in India does. That means we have harmonized and also enhanced business processes. We analyzed everything that was going on in the past. We analyzed what the users will need in the future. And we therefore also enhanced some already existing processes, performing the Dun search, for example, or also the reports I mentioned. This helps a lot for making financial decisions, or decisions in general are a lot easier and a lot faster than previously. And as I mentioned with the example of the financial reports, the base data reports and the Handelsregisterauszug in the past, this process really has been shrinked down, as sometimes it took days, if not weeks, until this file was delivered to our MDM team. Right now, they click on request a base data report, and they have the requested and required data to do the due diligence test within a few seconds. So yeah, harmonized and enhanced business processes, but of course also automation saves us money and time, as nobody now has to do multiple times a week some Excel exports, some imports, whatever, to keep data up to date. This is done automatically. Nobody needs to be involved in these activities. And if someone now has a look in the solution on some D&B base data, they can be sure that this data is really up to date. So yeah, what are the key lessons learned out of the project? As I mentioned it in the implementation description, the most important thing, at least for me, was to involve the business, to involve them early and involve them often. Only the key users really know what they need to do with their application, with the final solution that comes out of such a project. So I cannot know what exactly they need, only they can. And therefore, it's really important to always ask them for their opinion, to ask them for feedback, to let them know what you have achieved, and to ask them to discuss with you if that is going in the right direction, or if a different path would maybe more pleasable. On the other hand, involving D&B support is also very important. As the example of the financial reports shows, without contacting D&B support multiple times, without having them involved throughout the project, we would have not gone that way. We would not have been able to save some money in that area. So that really limits the risks of going in a completely wrong direction, simply by asking them, okay, this is our approach, describing to them, okay, this is the way we want to do it. What do you think about it? Are there any major obstacles in that approach? Is there really even a possible approach possible in that way? Or does it look good from a perspective of Dun Bradstreet? Also very important was the project management style. As I mentioned, we had a classical framework, but within that, we tried to be as flexible and as agile as possible, to have multiple development circles, multiple review circles, so-called sprints, not develop the final application from top to bottom, but really to try to develop smaller things, smaller parts of the application of the solution, review it, and then go on from that. And also one very important topic is to monitor dependencies. For example, most important, I think, would be resource bottlenecks. Your colleagues that are working with you on such a project are never only going to work for this project. They have daily work to do. They have business activities to do. They maybe are working on different projects at the same time. So it is also, of course, in our project, there was holiday season as we started in beginning of June. So have that and take that into account as early as possible, monitor it as often as possible, keep that always in mind and in focus, that some people are not available all the time, and plan accordingly. So try to not have activities that need some relative or some task to be done, that these tasks need to wait some time because some of your colleagues does simply not have the time to right now focus on that and perform the actions necessary. On the other hand, which was actually a good example in our case, I will definitely in the future have contract discussions always in my mind. In this case, due to holiday seasons, due to internal approval processes that simply took a bit longer than expected, it really took us a lot longer to finalize and sign the contract needed for, in this case, the financial reports, the data blocks. And it took us a lot longer than expected to have that in place. And the outcome was really that we needed to postpone the go live even by 2 weeks, as the contract was not in place by the original go live date. In our case, that was easy to manage as we planned in advance, and we realized, okay, this will not fit in the timeline. We need to postpone, but still in the future, I definitely know that I will push such topics right from the beginning to have them finished when, also the project should be included, of course, concluded. So that's about the main lessons learned. And also that's about it in general about the project. Again, I was very happy, and I am very happy that I was able to tell you a little bit about the project. And I thank you very much for your attention. And Thomas, correct me if I'm wrong, but we are open to questions now, right?
Yes, we are. Thank you very much for the presentation of the project. And I think the lessons learned are very, very interesting. And from my perspective as well. So I was your money saver. That's a good one.
True.
Back to
Okay.
Romana.
Yeah, okay. Thank you once more, Mario, for the great insights in this project. And we have already several questions. Feel free to write down more questions in the Q&A section, and we are happy to answer them. So the first question is, if you use data for compliance checks as well, did the DNB data help to find restricted businesses in Russia or Belarus? Did it help to identify customers in risk regarding banking sanctions?
Regarding the compliance checks, this is really only a first level check. So these base data reports we are using for these compliance checks do not even include financial data. So this is really done only as a first step to identify possible threats, to identify if vendors are really who they act like they are, but we are not involving financial data in these due diligence tests. These are then afterwards used in the financial areas, in the financial reports, but for the due diligence test, we do not use some financial data. And also, to be very honest with you, I have no insights on the current crisis and if these reports does affect this or does help in that area in any way or form.
Maybe some words from the perspective of DNB on this. Basically, yes, it would be possible to fetch also this data for restricted businesses or even on let's call it companies listed on sanction lists. Yes, it would be possible. Yes, it could be delivered via the DNB data blocks, but in this project there was no place for this. So basically, yes, the possibility is there, and we could go this road as well.
Okay. Next question. How did you summarize the needs of all different stakeholders in the beginning, and how many stakeholders or different departments have been involved?
Well, the process of gathering all the needs, all the requirements was really done, as I mentioned, in multiple phases. We sat together at the very beginning with the key users or the stakeholders, which are mainly using the application, and we went on from that. So we sit together with them. We discussed in the first meeting, okay, what is the current status of what are you currently using, what do you want from your future application. And we, from that point on, started analyzing, okay, where else are these data needed, where else are users that could benefit from such an application. And we then went on from that. We included them as well in the analysis phases. We asked for their feedback. We then, really tried to get them involved every time we were analyzing what the outcome of a specific sprint was. And that was really an iterative process. We did not gather all the needs right from the beginning. They really became clear throughout the project, throughout the analysis phases. And yeah, right after the final implementation phase, or actually right in front of the last sprint, all the settings were clear and all the requirements were clear. And only by then we really knew, okay, what should the final solution look like.
Mm-hmm. Next question, have there been situations or phases where you had bigger challenges, especially in mapping the data or the data amount within your systems?
I think that the biggest challenge was right at the beginning, as I was not aware of how much data we actually are consuming and how many customers and vendors we actually do have in our systems. So, for example, when we implemented the monitoring process, from the beginning on, I thought, okay, we will have some few hundreds, few thousands of items that we want to fetch, that we want to keep up to date. But I did not realize that we are actually in the 10,000s of updates we are doing each week. And yeah, 10,000s of data sets we are updating and fetching. And this really, when we were implementing the processes on the middleware side, really, yeah, took us by surprise and really, yeah, challenged us by, yeah, as we were not able to really process all the data right from the beginning, but we had to split it. We had to go a different approach on that. So really becoming clear on how many data we actually are fetching, are storing and using provided really a challenge for us, yes.
Okay, next question. Was the integration process of the DNB data blocks clearly set from the beginning? I mean, was the scope of the financial data clearly set, or did the subjects change due to results of the analysis phase?
When we are talking about no, actually, yes, in both, only on a very higher level. Of course, as I mentioned previously, we thought, okay, we will go the direction of company reports. We then chose data blocks and transforming these data by ourselves instead. And we did that also, as I mentioned, in an iterative manner. So we tried to create a simple report, send it out, and then review it together with business and ask them for their feedback. Is this information in there enough? Is this everything what you need? We also provided the data in general to them, so the technical format, so that they are aware of what is included in these reports and data blocks in specific. And then we went on from that. So no, it was actually not clear right from the beginning. Of course, some key figures like credit limit recommendations or such things were clear right from the scratch, but throughout the various phases, we then extended the first report version by several fields until we got to the final report that is now used by our business.
Okay, great. You said that the business stakeholders have been involved very early and deeply into the solution process. Have you faced, due to this decision, also some issues regarding the expectation of the final solution?
Well, I would not call it issues. Of course, if you are involving business users or in general the end users throughout the project, throughout the development process, could be the case that some of these users do not always have time or do not want to spend the time. But in such cases, you need to make them aware that you are designing a solution, an application for them that they will work with in the future, and that their feedback right now is the key to provide the most efficient way of working, to provide the best possible solution, the best possible outcome to them. And therefore, you also have to be careful of whom you choose as a key user, as such users that you want to involve throughout the process. So you should choose users that you know that are into that topic, that are able and also willing to spend time giving you feedback, giving you their input. Otherwise, that could really lead to some issues if such key users are not willing to simply give you time and feedback on your approach and your process.
Thomas, one question for you. Does the interface for receiving data blocks look a lot different than the other requests from the APIs provided by DNB?
Actually, no. If you are aware of Direct Plus already, then it's pretty much the same. Otherwise, maybe some information in general. It's a RESTful service. You're getting JSON as a response. You have to pull data with GET and POST requests. That's very technical, of course. Yeah, basically, it's as you might know it from the data packages already. It's pretty straightforward. It's pretty easy to handle these data, and it's very well structured, to be honest. Data blocks, it's pretty much the same. You have your block, you have your level, you have your request formed out of this, and maybe that's as well a topic for the DNB support during the initial phase, because we are happy to introduce you to this API. We are happy to give some guides how you have to handle this as well. There are some pre-configured Postman collections available, a very good documentation. So basically, no, it's not the different one. And yeah, we are happy to guide you through this jungle of information at the DNB documentation.
In the chat, there are also several questions that people are interested in seeing the user dashboard. So maybe Mario, afterwards, we can share some screenshots or so, if it's possible for you. So the people who are interested, just send me a short notice in the chat, and we will share this with you. There is another question. Is it possible to put the data into a monitoring service? If so, which update cycle would you recommend? Or is it even possible to choose different update cycles?
Yes, it is possible to put this data in a monitoring service. Maybe what does monitoring service mean? This means that the data you have in your systems, you have already fetched with a DUNS number, is getting updated. Just to have an imagination of how many updates we can provide daily. We have at the moment nearly 480 million DUNS numbers in our system, and there are up to 6 million updates daily on a daily basis. So yeah, there are lots of updates, and yes, they can be delivered by a monitoring service, and recommended. And if you are in a risk cases, I guess in the risk and finance case, there's always a daily update cycle recommended, to be honest, because you would like to know if a company or an organization are getting in troubles, if a company is getting out of business or so on, and you would like to know that fast and precise. So I would recommend a daily update cycle, and yeah, it is possible to choose different ones. There also could be a weekly or a monthly cycle.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay, again, someone would like to see an example of the final solution. We will share this afterwards. As we're running a little bit out of time, thank you, Mario and Thomas, again for sharing your experiences. If you have further questions after the webinar, connect directly with Mario and Thomas via LinkedIn. They are happy to answer your questions. And thanks again for joining, and have a great day. Bye bye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.